Skiing in Jackson Hole is something super special with just how much snow we get, how deep it is. Absolutely something special. If you skied in deep snow that goes over your head, you can really relate to this. It's not like another feeling that I've ever had with anything else. It's just so magical to be able to go out where you're skiing and there's these massive spires and you're just in this absolute dream. And I just kind of pinch myself all the time when I'm here. I'm like, wow, I can't believe how unbusy it is. And just looking at these mountains, and just so inspiring to be able to be somewhere that you can have really good snow quality all the time. And the terrain here is just so unique. Hey everyone, I had a lot of fun coming up with this webinar, and I'm in Jackson right now, and it's kind of the mud season. And so looking outside, it's, pretty muddy. There's not much to do. And so it made me just think about dreaming, daydreaming, desires, everyone's aspirations, their goals, what they yearn for. I think a lot of people love traveling, whether it's going to Europe and looking at these old buildings and how cool they are, and like these churches, and just being inspired by this old architecture. Or some people love traveling to big cities and finding hole in the walls to eat. And I mean, I love doing that too. Or, some people dream about cars or fine foods or wines or being on the beach. It's all great. But what I dream about is skiing. And skiing has taken me all over the world. And skiing in Jackson Hole is something super special with just how much snow we get, how deep it is. And you can see in these photos, they're just like absolutely something special. If you skied in deep snow that goes over your head, you can really relate to this. It's not like another feeling that I've ever had with anything else, with surfing or skateboarding or anything like that. It's just so magical to be able to go out. And I think one of the really unique things here in Jackson is just how beautiful our landscape is. And just me looking back through all this material, smiling while looking at these videos of just dreaming about skiing again, has just got me so excited about this winter and this upcoming winter, and being a mountain guide and just doing what we do. It's so unique. And I just think it's one of the best things to be able to experience. So a little bit more about me. I'm Michael Wachs. I am the winter lead guide at Jackson Hole Mountain Guides. I manage all the winter guides. I do all the hiring, staffing, training, and the risk management here. I grew up in Southeast Idaho. I've been skiing in Jackson since I was a kid, though. When I was in college, I used to ski patrol, and I was working at a climbing gym, and I had all these dreams to be able to make a living outside. And so I got a really cool opportunity. I moved up to Canada and I ski patrolled at Lake Louise up in Banff. And that was such a great opportunity to get more in the mountains, even more just ice climbing and skiing, and learning so much more about being in the mountains and how to be safe. And that was really when I was introduced to a mountain guide. And so I am a licensed UIA GM IFMGA mountain guide. I have guided in Antarctica, Norway, up in Svalbard, Switzerland, Canada, all over. And it's just been so great to be able to have taken all these places skiing. I also do a lot of alpine guiding. I've on-site guided the Matterhorn, which is such a cool opportunity this last summer to be able to do that. And however, I'm a climber and a skier, but I'm a guide. I love taking people out into the mountains and having a great experience with them and catering the trip and really seeing people's goals, because there's so many different avenues. And I think being out with really quality people is just so cool. But I mainly work in the Tetons here in Jackson Hole, and I think it's somewhere so unique. And I think that speaks a little bit to, everywhere I've been, about how magical Jackson Hole is. Just looking at some of these videos of like these backdrops of where you're skiing and there's these massive spires and you're just in this absolute dream. And I just kind of pinch myself all the time when I'm here. I'm like, wow, I can't believe how unbusy it is. And just looking at these mountains, and it's just so inspiring to be able to be somewhere that you can have really good snow quality all the time. And the terrain here is just so unique, I think, especially with how few people come here. And I think that's one of the things with Jackson Hole is the Tetons are the birthplace of mountaineering in the United States. And you can see from this photo, this is one of my favorite vantage points. This is from Cascade Canyon. And you can just see all of these ridges and just peaks and these couloirs everywhere. And it's just such a cool place to climb in the summer, with linking up these ridges from peaks to peaks and sometimes having to spend the night out on these ridges. It's cool. And just from single day, just beautiful knife blade ridges to be able to come back. It is a really unique place. With that being said, I have to say that the Tetons were built for skiing. Just having these backdrops while you're out skiing is just so cool, to be able to have something so natural, because they don't have any ski lifts at them. So you are touring up to these. And I feel like that is a little bit more work, but the reward is so much higher for how many few people you see out. And I think one of the biggest things with skiing in Jackson is that there's just every sort of flavor you like. You know, someone likes sherbet flavored ice cream or Rocky Road or vanilla, whatever, chocolate. We've got that in your skiing category. And I think that's one of the funniest ways to put it. It's just like, we have it all. We have low angle. We have not steep couloirs. We have steep couloirs. We have big open faces. We have trees. We have everything. And so what it really does is it lends itself for anyone's ability. And I think that's why it's such a great place to be a guide, is because we can really hone in on a place to be able to take people. And, you know, from the low angle stuff to skiing the Grand, this is a great photo of, you know, looking down at the middle Teton, and you can just see all the potential there. Just being able to take people out into this is like, you can really test yourself. You know, skiing the Grand is kind of the coveted piece here for ski mountaineers. You know, it involves a bit of ice climbing and a lot of rope work. And it just has the ultimate, and just down to really just truly enjoying big open bowls that are so inviting. And it lends itself to be able to let people push themselves. And I think that's so nice as being a guide, is to see someone that maybe doesn't feel comfortable with doing something, and then getting out and being like, oh, wow, I can do that. It's really rewarding for me to be able to be out in the mountains and just really enjoy being out with folks and just having such a diversity of different people with stories. And it's just really rewarding for me to be able to take people out. And some people have different goals and they have different desires. And I think that's so cool. Some people are just like, yeah, guide me. I'm like, okay. And then some people really want to learn. And I love teaching. I mean, I have a bachelor's degree from Idaho State University in outdoor education. So, I mean, I just love teaching, and I think it's really fun. And this range is just a perfect place to be able to do that. As you can see in here, there's just rocks and faces and bowls and trees and couloirs hidden in there. And so it just lends itself to be able to take people out, whether the wind has changed or the sun is doing what it does and affecting the snow, that you have so much real estate to be able to work with that. And so getting into these camps that we do, I think this is one of the more fun things of being able to help people out. And these programs of these different camps, I think, really hone in on what people need. Our essentials is basically people that, you know, you've been skiing before, but maybe not touring. And so we really show all these tips and tricks on how to be efficient. And it really came up with people going into avalanche courses and just not being able to focus on the course because they were fiddling with their gear and they weren't having a great time. And we're like, well, we need to get people off to a better start so that they can learn in this. And it's basically just having a foundation. These deep powder camps are for people that have been touring a little while, and they really want to be able to go further and be able to be in a variety of different conditions, go into the mountains that, you know, aren't as forgiving. And so to be able to manage your gear and do things. The DPS camp is something I came up with one of the guys there that were really good friends. And we wanted a really special event that was really interesting to be able to be out with so many people of that. You can be out with the DPS people that have made the skis and you can talk with them, and you're out with ambassadors that, you know, are professionals and are sponsored athletes. And it's just a really cool, like almost industry event that you're involved in. It's a really cool event for just looking at new products and being out with these people. And then our ski and split mountaineering camp is such a unique thing that we go over all of the tools that people need to really get into steep skiing and stay safe while they're doing that. The nuance of ski mountaineering can vary so much from wherever you're at, whether it's glaciers or you're rappelling into steep couloirs. We go over all that so people really can feel confident. And then we actually go out and put it to the test and go into some really cool terrain that we can spend a lot of time in and actually go over these things. With today, I think it's difficult to figure out where you're at and what camp should you take. And so it's like, well, how good of a skier am I? Now, I think to take any of these, you need to be able to have, years of skiing in diverse snow conditions. So if you're just skiing groomers, I think it's going to be tough to get out in the backcountry if you've never skied, a foot of powder. And so I think having a really good foundation of being able to ski in a lot of different conditions, and I think being a really good expert skier for getting into that ski mountaineering is crucial. Yeah, and your time off piste and how much touring you've had. If you've been touring a bit and you have a good foundation, maybe taking one of these deep PAL camps, which is essentially an advanced course of getting out further and looking at all these different techniques that we showcase and be like, wow, I wish I knew that. How much avalanche education you've had. If you've taken your rec courses, or some people come into the ski mountaineering course and they have taken a pro level avalanche course, and also your fitness, being realistic with all these things, I think is just going to benefit you the best. And I think just being realistic with where you're at. So getting into the essentials, when I started touring, I just kind of went out and made sure that I was safe. But there's a lot of things that I went to the school of hard knocks and had to learn it the hard way. And I just wish I would have hired a guide than knowing what I know now and been doing this as long as I have. And I still am learning too. And every time I get out with someone, I typically learn something. And so it's just so nice to be able to really expedite your ability to get out in the backcountry and hone in on what you need. And I think that's one of the biggest things with hiring a guide is, all of our training and all of our experience and how many different people we get out and train with, that we have a wealth of knowledge. And I just really wish I would have done this when I first started skiing, was how to manage my clothing in the wind or what gear to carry and all these things, because I think it's just so nice when you actually get out skiing and you're not thinking about the stuff. You're just enjoying this day. And this is one of our guides, Gage. He's just skiing and it was just such a fun day. And I remember at the end of the day, I was just like, wow, this day just went so smooth. And we kind of looked at each other and was like, yeah, and it was such a nice feeling. And I really want to get people to be at that point where they're just like, I'm not thinking about the gear. I'm not thinking about this stuff, and just being able to go out and just truly enjoy the skiing, because I know how gear intensive this is and stuff. And I think just we see a lot of people out in the backcountry that just don't have a lot of the basics down and the essentials. And I think that's why we really, really wanted to come up with this essentials, is just to really give people a strong foundation. Because like this person on the left has their water bottles on the outside of their pack. And anyone that knows, when they have their weight away from them, when you ski, it makes this fulcrum. It pulls you away. If you were to have those water bottles right next to your pack, like the heaviest thing right next to your spine, you don't feel it as much. And so that's one of those things about we go into is how to pack and how to take your skins off and just put them on really easily, because we see a lot of people struggle with that. And I just want people to, when they're out skiing, they're like, man, I want to look like that person, and they're just like, man, I just want to be like that. And that's what we really want to have with these essentials, is that people walk away with feeling confident and having things to work on and be able to grow. So these camps are so cool. This is a friend of mine who I've been guiding a while, and this was one of our first seasons together. And it was just so cool to get out with him and be able to go up into this really unique terrain, in my opinion, of skiing up these really cool ridges and faces and just feeling like you're so exposed to these big mountains and having just breathtaking views while you're learning from people. Is just so inspiring, because you can hire people, but I think the Tetons are just really inviting for everyone to be able to come to. And I think the snow is really forgiving here, with looking at where to go and how to do everything. It's just so cool to be out here and learning these tips and tricks, with just being so inspired of these mountains, whether you just enjoy looking at them or you see that line you want to ski one day, and being able to grow and develop to get there, because you'll kind of see that theme throughout this. And then being able to be up on that big ridge like that and then skiing these big open faces that are just so fun. And actually, this is a non-avalanche terrain. So it's just really nice to be able to have so much real estate to be able to work with all these different conditions and just have such a good time. I know that skiing is probably one of the more unique sports because it is gear intensive. And one of the things that we really like people honing in on is touring is different from skiing at the resort. Skiing off piste is different. You need a bigger backpack. You don't have that one big jacket that you wear at the resort. You dress kind of more like an onion. Like you need to take layers off. I always call it Katy Perry, hot and cold. So like you're taking jackets off, you're putting some on, or you're adjusting your hat or whatever. And so, going into the gear that really allows you to be the best with being comfortable in the backcountry is, I think, really ideal. And so we go through a lot of stuff like, what do I need to carry? What are some luxury items that people are willing to carry if they need? But we really like to go through all this stuff detailed and show tricks. Like this is a great one that I learned. I don't know how many people have been out, going skiing and you meet at the trailhead and then someone forgets their skins or they forget their poles. One thing that, a lot of the guides here know about me is that I always talk about good habits and making good habits. It's always hard for me to see someone that they know better and then they still do what's wrong. So this is a great trick. I just put my skins on in my house. And I just put my poles with my skis and I just ski strap them. And then I know I'm not going to lose my poles or not have my skins with me. And then I just put them in the car. And then when I get to the trailhead, then I already have them on. And so I think that's a really good trick to be able to just do that. And so I do it every day. And we go through a lot of these things and the essentials of just like, how do I lower my stress and how do I really use the best of my time? Because then you're not putting your skins on in the parking lot with, cold hands or whatever. And it takes a while. You can just drop your skis down and start skinning. And we like to go through, setting people up for success of like, you don't have to carry a lot of things, but, some things are really, really helpful, like ski straps, probably the best thing to fix anything. You can usually use one to fix something. Your boot buckle broke and you can strap it around, or maybe something happened with the binding and you need to attach your boot to that. And so we go through a lot of the gear that just, this stuff is gone really, really, really good, but I don't think there's any binding I've ever seen that hasn't broken. Having a small repair kit with you is just kind of an essential, and having that screwdriver with the correct bits, people are like, oh, I'll grab my screwdriver, and then they don't have the right bit. And so we go through those things and really show a lot of the stuff that we carry, with from tape and zip ties to be able to fix things. And it really doesn't add that much weight to your pack. More advanced people that are going further and further, carrying a tarp or a sled. Sometimes, if someone is injured, you need to drag them. And then having a small first aid kit and actually how to use that is really crucial, I think, because if someone has the first aid kit, but they don't know how to use it, knowledge is power, and just being able to do all that stuff. And yeah, backcountry skiing is gear intensive, but what we really want to do is set people up for success. And a lot of it is looking at the weather. Yeah, I want to stay safe, but my biggest thing is I just want to ski really good snow. I would rather ski non-avalanche terrain if it's really good skiing than I would a couloir that's going to not ski well. I'd always pick the better skiing. And so we go through weather and how to look at that. And then with all that weather, how to digest all that and then relate it to the mountains. And so I think it's really cool to be based in Jackson because we do have a pretty cool range that does have a lot of nuance and really showcase how to use these things to set yourself up to have a really good day out in the backcountry. There's a lot of these different things that come up with these basics, these essentials. I think that's one of the most fun courses that we do, these camps. It's awesome. Like I mentioned in the past, like I've hired guides. I'm an IFMGA guide, and going through that process was hiring guides essentially and having them show me how to do things better. And I think here in the States, it's, people are like, well, I'm going to figure it out. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. But when you hire someone, it's like, man, that was so beneficial to be able to go out and really help out. And so that's one of those things that over the years, really, I can't thank the process enough because I've just learned so much and it's really helped me. And just thinking about these days, about going further into the mountains, this was a really cool day. This is talking about our deep POW camps, about how to go further and getting up higher and being able to manage your gear. It can be a lot more tricky once you're starting to get further into the mountains, and how to really, really make sure that your gear will last all day so that your jackets aren't soaked or your gloves are soaked, how to manage those things, how to make sure your skins are still going to work. And I think it's just a level up from being in the essentials. And once you have those essentials kind of packed down, you can get out and go into this a little bit bigger terrain. And that's really where our deep POW camps shine, is for more of an advanced skier that has had some time actually out touring, and they feel pretty confident that they can go out on a tour and be able to do that. And so this is, their bigger days, they're more complex terrain, they're big link ups of dropping down into other drainages and being able to how to manage those things and what to look for. I think that's one of the coolest things about these deep POW camps, is just getting out further and how to really manage all of your gear, whether it's your navigation or how to manage your gear, because everyone just wants to get out and just be able to find that snow. And I think this can apply to a lot of different people. Like maybe you need to get further away in Europe and you don't want to just get that low hanging fruit that's been skied, and you want to be able to go further. Then this is a really good product, and you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. This was such a cool day. I was out skiing with a friend who's a client of mine. I mentioned him earlier on the essentials, and it's just been really cool over the years to be out with folks and see progression. And I think that's one really cool thing of, like, once he had the essentials, I was like, hey, let's go for a bigger day. And he was okay. And this was just such a cool day, going out and skiing these bigger lines, and it was just so nice to be able to get out. And he was just like, wow, it had finally clicked for him that all of those good habits had actually paid off. Instead of him just being like, oh, whatever, I'll do this or whatever, he could really focus on the skiing and where we were. And all those essentials had become just second nature. Like, we're getting up to the ridge line. It's a lot of wind. I'm going to put on an extra layer. Boom. Then you get up there and then your temperature goes down. You're like, perfect. That was great that I put on that extra layer. And just being able to kind of have that foresight with the essentials, that it's more of a second nature of all that. And this was a couple of days later, and we had skied off the top of Albright. And, usually don't let people go first, but I had skied with him a lot. It was just so rewarding for him to be like, wow, all this time, getting out has really, really paid off. And I just think that was such a cool, unique day of just being out with people and seeing their personal growth, and just how happy it is to just see someone grow and develop, and they're just so excited. And that's why I love guiding. It's just, it doesn't have to be the most extreme terrain. Just getting out and skiing lines like this are just so iconic. And this is a really cool line in the Tetons. I said Albright. It's about 4,000 feet of fall line skiing. It's a beautiful run to be able to ski. And these deep POW camps really emphasize on how to get further out there. It's a bump up from the essentials for sure. Our DPS Riders Camp is really a cool event. I have been with DPS for a while. They have been a great company to work with. I can't thank them enough over the years. And I approached them and being like, hey, we should do an event. And they're like, yeah, cool. We'd love to do that. And it just has turned into just a group of people that keep coming back all the time. And it's been coveted. We've been doing it for, I think, 4 years now. And it's just been so fun to get out. And what it is, essentially, it's an industry event. Basically, we get DPS employees that make the skis and design the skis, and we get them out and ski with them to really showcase why these skis make a big difference. And I think the more that people have skied and toured and got in the mountains, you can really see how the gear makes a big difference. And that's one of the biggest opportunities of this, is to show people, like, this is why these skis are so good. And they're all made in the United States. All the parts are from the US. Everyone's from the US that makes them. It's really cool to be able to have this event that you're skiing with, some of their sponsored athletes, and you're skiing with people within. And it's just been such a cool event. And it's essentially advanced for deep POW camp, but you have all these other amenities to it, which is really cool. And we, bring in parts of skis, and you get to see how they're constructed, and they just last longer and all the benefits to them. And it's just a really cool event. And I think a lot of people are always looking for community. And I think this is one of my favorites, is because the people that come into this are just so like-minded in it. And we just have such good conversations, and people bring up really good questions. And it's like, oh, I never really thought about that. That's cool. And so this event has just been so fun to still go over all these techniques about how to really manage your gear, because we're doing, bigger days, we're doing link ups and going further, and how to really manage yourself in some deeper snow and bigger link ups. And it's just really cool to be able to go out and ski with ambassadors and ski with these manufacturers, and on the skin track talk to them like, hey, have you ever thought about this? And they're like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. And well, we have this ski. It's like, oh, cool, I never thought about that. And you get to demo their skis. It's really cool to be able to and sometimes even see the next year's skis. And so it's just really cool to be out with all these folks and just have such a good time. This was such a cool weekend out in Jackson. I can't remember how much snow it was, but I think someone said that there was too much snow. So that makes me feel like it was a pretty good day getting out with people and just having a really, really fun time. And just being inspired by getting out and learning from people is just so fun. So the DPS camp is such a cool event to be able to be at. Now, getting into the ski mountaineering camps, this is really cool because our terrain here in Jackson is so unique, in my opinion, because of the vast amount of big lines that we have here. And, this is one of the coolest lines I think I've ever skied anywhere. And it's in Jackson. It's called the Apocalypse Couloir. And you rappel into it and you ski down. It is really a cool line to be able to think like, wow, I'll be at home tonight and, just like having dinner with my wife. It's pretty cool to be able to ski next to these huge pillars of ice. And it's just like, wow, to be able to get into that terrain, or skiing off the east face of the Middle Teton. You can see on the right-hand side, that's about 50 degrees. It's really, really steep. And we had really nailed this day out skiing. And on the left is the Ellingwood Couloir, which is, if you look at the right-hand photo, that's where it turns right. And it's just so cool to be able to link up to all these things. And you look at these photos and you see other lines that you want to ski, and they're just kind of everywhere to be able to. And having this opportunity here to be able to get higher, go further, be in couloirs, be on faces, and just be amongst these massive giants. And this was another great day of skiing the South Teton, and just thinking about how unique all these different lines are, and finding the perfect one for that perfect day with that person's abilities is just absolutely so fun. E-mountaineering is a pretty gear-intensive sport, and so someone may look at these ice axes and be like, oh yeah, that's an ice axe. And it's like, well, each of them have a different purpose and they have a different need for a different objective. And we go through all the nuances of being like, okay, well, when should I have one and which one should I get? I think that's really, really nice to be able to go through and have that explanation of like, oh, well, the axe that I have is just totally wrong for what I want to be doing. Because I do think it makes a big difference having the right tools, especially in this terrain. I think the weight of everything and where you're going really, really matters. This is kind of one of my biggest ski mountaineering partners. He's a guide here, and we've just skied so much over the years. And it's just so cool to get out and being able to like how to approach these bigger lines and how to manage communication and do all these different things. It's not just about the gear, even though I love talking about gear, but talking about what crampons do you need, and certain people may need different things. You can see on the very far left that those crampons are pretty thin. The ones in the middle are a little bit more robust, and the ones on the right are all steel. And they each offer a different amount of security. And I think it's great to talk about these things because maybe someone's not as comfortable on certain terrain that, someone's like, yeah, I feel really confident in walking up there in those little crampons. And someone's like, well, I may take a little bit more security and bring the middle ones. And being able to go over that stuff and why certain crampons do different things. And I think it's up to other people. It's not like, hey, you need these ones. It's like, well, these are your options. And some folks may choose to take different things. A big part of ski mountaineering is managing ropes and how to rappel. And you can really see that there's a lot go into it, and what harnesses to take. You can take your old, really, really heavy climbing harness that you use in the summer, or you can take one of these newer ski mountaineering harnesses. And we go through all this gear of how to approach rappelling and all these nuances with skinnier ropes. You can see on the photo on the left, there's a spot with that rappel device and how to add more friction. And we go through these tricks on how to not take forever to put your skis on your pack, or what do I do with my poles, and how do I set up for rappel, and how do I make sure I'm safe? We go through all these things, and that's one of the coolest things about the Tetons is we have a lot of this terrain, and it's not that far away. This is a couloir just on the backside of where we do our essentials camps. You get to the top of there, and you can ski down the east face, and it's beautiful open glades, or you go to the north, and you can be ski mountaineering. It's a really cool area to be able to spend the time. We don't just guide people down this stuff. We really want to have people feel comfortable, ask questions, be able to use the gear and do a lot of that. We get into some advanced things. This is the photo of me skiing the Grand Teton, and we go into like some advanced navigation on how to deal with whiteout conditions if that's something you're looking at, and looking at new technology. Things keep changing. Even in the past 5 years, things have changed quite a bit. And so, getting out with guides and looking at these new techniques, it's like, wow, that just really made things a lot easier for me and my personal goals to get out. And so we really like doing those kind of things and really showcasing that. And also, like I was saying, like getting out in this terrain can be really consequential, and how to communicate with people. We go over with radios and look at hard maps, and not just relying on newer technology, because some people are like, yeah, I don't really want to keep spending money. And I'm a big person about that. It's like knowledge is power. Is there a way to just learn something and move forward? And that's another thing that we really like to go into these courses is how to make everything work for everyone. And it's just like, yeah, you can always throw money at something and make it easier, but sometimes it's like, well, this is what I got and let's make it work. And we like to show everything from those basics to the advanced in these ski mountaineering camps. This isn't as typical, but we go through and we cater all these camps. We don't just do a X and Y. When people are out there and they have questions that they want to learn, we like to cater to those people. So, one of the ski mountaineering camps, a group of people were like, we want to go camping. It's like, okay. So we talk about how to really set up to get even further. You want to do a big traverse in Canada and there aren't any huts. And you're like, okay, well, we have to be self-supported. We can go through those things and show how to stay lightweight and be able to actually manage this stuff and go and still ski with it. And so, it doesn't always have to be just about rappelling. Some people want a boot pack, and we spend more time on that because sometimes there's that dream line. This is Mount Moran here in Tetons. That's the Ski-llset Glacier on the top. And it's on the bucket list for a lot of people, more so than the Grand, because there isn't an ice climbing component but it's far out there. And some people can do it in a day, but I think a lot of people like to do the camping. And so we help people get to where their dreams are. This is one of the coolest peaks, I think, in the Tetons, of just staring at it, and dreaming about, well, maybe one day I'll ski that. What do I need to do that? Or you have your own dreams of what you want to ski, but you're not quite there yet. And I think that's humbling to just be like, yeah, I'm not there. And there's certain lines that I am not ready to ski yet. And I think that's okay. And just being humble and being prepared with where you're at and knowing what you need to do. And some people come to these ski mountaineering camps and they really want to learn how to stay safe on glaciers. This is a photo of me in Antarctica, but this is a great example of, like, you can see all the crevassing and stuff like that. And we can go over those things in the Tetons and how to manage the rope work and be able to set people up for their success. Maybe the camping and the rope work on glaciers isn't standard, but when people ask us about, hey, can we go over this? We'd love to go over and really help out specific groups and being able to cater to people and their abilities. So what are your goals for this winter? I think the biggest goals of mine is to get out with people that are eager to learn and they want to be out with fun people and have a really great time. And for me, like I've said before, it doesn't matter about only getting to ski mountaineering. I love just going and skiing powder. It's just that big grin that I have when I'm just having so much fun out with people, and being able to get people to their goals and their desires is just so rewarding. To be able to get out with people and find that perfect day with them and really see people smile and feel and have confidence and continue to grow, as I think everyone and myself can always do. And it's just such a cool place. And I love sharing being in the Tetons with folks. It's just a great, great experience to be here. And I think keeping in growing and being realistic with where you're at is just so fun. It was really fun to put this together and think about why I do what I do. And I think it's really great to just get out with people and see that progression and see them so happy about it, because I do love climbing and skiing, but I'm a guide and I think it's great and so rewarding for me to get out. So hopefully I can get out with a bunch of you here and we can go out skiing.